think it was
I feel like I remember when
2013.
you guys started doing it.
I think it was 2013
Is
because
there like classes on that offered here? I'm just curious.
Like on numerology or?
No,
on
on that specific teaching.
Oh.
I mean, that would be
That's
really good
interesting.
to offer for, say, a person like me who's not been brought up.
yeah.
Because to me, it comes across as numerology, which is not spiritual. I mean, it
Oh.
gets the Jew.
Yes, it is definitely the influence of the.
The point of Christ dying on the cross was the new covenant. So
Mhm.
that would be really good to offer for clarification and a deeper understanding.
Yeah, and you know what? I bet you. I don't know. Going back to 2013, but I bet you those sermons on the. Like the New Year's sermons are online or
I
archived.
look Sam up for YouTube to try and find older
Mm-hmm.
teachings, and I haven't found any.
You just have to go to Family
Yeah,
and
you have to go to our website.
The Yeah, on the church's website, that's where my husband is the one that actually uploads the sermons. That's why I'm saying if the old ones that going back that far aren't on the website, he might have them archived in his own laptop. But
Yeah, if you could actually ask him about that for me,
Yeah,
that
that's
would be very. Well, that'd be information that I don't have. So
yeah, okay, that's really, I hadn't thought about that. That's a good question. All right, we're gonna just finish up here really quick. We ended up, no, that's okay. We have until, technically this class is supposed to go until 10:30, so we have 10 more minutes. So there are different graces given dependent on what is needed or is to be accomplished by God's Spirit. So how do I say that? The different graces to do different things, because I mean, I don't know how to explain that. I'm going blank right now. But so there's a grace for different things in our lives, is kind of really what that's saying, given to us whenever we need it. So, I mean, you might not, that's why I was saying that when something is required of you, like you're put in a certain position or someone needs something from you, you might not have ever been able to do that before, but you're given the grace to do that in that moment, and the anointing, and it goes and it happens. I remember Robbie Dragman saying that whenever he was in Suriname and he was in a village, there was someone who was really sick, and their family member came and got him, and they were like, I really need you to pray and to see my family member healed. They're so sick. And Robbie was having like maybe one of his dry cup days where he's like, there's nothing in this cup today, and I'm not overflowing today. I don't feel like it. I don't really feel in the spirit. I've had a bad day. And they're like, I need you to pray to see this family member healed. And he's like, okay. So he goes in there, and he just brought his acoustic guitar and just started praying and singing to God, and the person was healed just in that presence of God, that entered the room. And he was just obedient to go, and I feel like he was then given the grace to see that healing, even though it didn't come out of him. It wasn't him, it wasn't him relying on himself. It was him relying on the Spirit of God.
That faith that you wrote just right there, faith is our response to God's help. It's just like the person reaching up and touching his cloak, in faith, because he needed, healing. So just to reach it, was it she or he?
She.
Because it was the woman who was, yeah.
Yeah,
So
she
she reached up just to touch his clothing, and was healed because of her faith.
Yes, and let me see. So faith is our response to God's help. Faith is our response to grace. So once that kind of does go back to salvation when we think of it that way. We are getting, say you're praying the prayer or whatever, you're getting saved and you're receiving that grace. Well, your response is faith. You're receiving grace, and that allows you to put your faith in God. Thus, you are saved or whatever, born again. It's only by our proper response to God's grace that we are able to grow in our development in the character of Christ. So we must have faith as our response to that grace. Otherwise, it doesn't work. We can't doubt it, like what we were talking about earlier, self-doubt. Hebrews 12:15 says, "Be careful that none of you fails to respond to the grace which God gives you, for if he does, if you do fail to respond to it, there can very easily spring up in him a bitter spirit which is not only bad in itself, but can also poison the lives of many others. So we have to respond properly. There is a bad response and a good response to God's grace. And then the consequences thereafter of either one. So there are wrong responses to God's grace that the Word talks about. We can take it for granted, which we've probably all done or seen. I mean, we've all done it, but then also you might think of an example where you've seen that done. Taking His grace for granted, falling from grace because you're trying to make it on your own. Sam talked about that. Was it Sunday? Yeah, he said, God said to him, "When is my grace not sufficient for anybody?" Yeah, whenever you decide it's not, is basically. Whenever you decide that His grace can't fix this, or His grace is not enough for this, that's when it's not enough, because you, that doubt, that thinking that it's not enough, that's when it's not enough. Because, I mean, we appropriate the grace in our lives whenever we need it. So these are the wrong responses. Receive it in vain. So we basically don't appropriate it or don't think we need it. We insult it and we sin willingly. That's kind of taking it for granted as well. You know, telling God that I'm not going to do something, repenting for something, knowing, have you guys ever repented for something, knowing in the back of your mind, I'm probably going to do this again pretty easily. You know?
Unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, I have. Like, God, I'm so sorry for this. That was terrible. But if I do it again, I'm just going to say the same thing.